Best ball season is revving up. We've already had our rookie drafts rolling, and we are thinking about the future in 2025. But we've already given you of who's hot, who's great. We're getting gross today. We're giving you the deep sleepers that you should be targeting on all your rosters right here on the Fast Draft Podcast. All right, I've got Daniel Harms with me with RGR and the Scouting Room. Is that what it is over there with Damian Parsons on YouTube? Interesting to have you in here. And now is the perfect time for us to talk about some of these deep sleepers. Right in with DeAndre Swift as mine. This is gross. I know a lot of people don't like DeAndre Swift, but he survived, Daniel. Yeah. And it's crazy that he's a deep sleeper. Flex 4. Start 4, only flex positions, draft 6. He's basically going undrafted, and he's a starting running back right now. I do think Kyle Monangai has a role, but this is a time where you might be able to buy Swift if you're a contender. And when I mean you're buying him, Swift can die at any moment. Is what I'm saying. Like it's like it could be a year from now, it could be weeks from now. We don't know, but there is an easy path to relevance. Dynasty 20 RB27, redraft 29. With running backs, once you get past 24, nothing matters. It's not like wide receivers sometimes on there. So that's kind of the shadow realm. Swift, and he's not terrible. I know we like to poo-poo all over him, but there's an easy role and path to fantasy relevance in a Ben Johnson offense. Like, is this gross, or is this a sell opportunity for you?
So it was gross. It was gross until Ben Johnson took over. We have 3 years of experience in Detroit where Ben Johnson used to work, obviously. So we can see the very first year that Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator in 2022, there were 70 targets given to DeAndre Swift. 70 targets. Like, we're not asking for DeAndre Swift to go 1,000 yards rushing. We are asking him to get 50 plus receptions. And that is possible in an offense that wants to get the football out, keep Caleb Williams comfortable on time. And one ways that we know they're going to do that is throw the football to the running back, check downs, get him the ball in space. And even when you look at the rest of the room there with Kyle Monangai and Roschon Johnson, there's no explosivity there in terms of guys that can just get real juice and explosive plays. So one of the big winners that, like I said, no one was talking about was DeAndre Swift from the draft, because they didn't draft any running back that can feasibly threaten his role. The only situation you're talking about is if they continue to bring in more running backs later, like 2026. This season, you're going for a chip. DeAndre Swift is someone you probably want to have on your rosters.
Yep, because on my teams that I have him on, they are contenders. He's like, I'm always either a hero RB or zero RB guy, so he'll be like my RB 2 or 3. I have one that was a contending roster that collapsed towards the second half of the season, so I got some decent draft capital and have a decent roster, and I'm looking at Swift there. And especially how it works, it's like a specific Empire League. It's designed to where, like, if you tank, all you're doing is hurting yourself because you don't earn a lot of the stuff. So there's like none of this rebuild shit, So it's just like I got Swift, and I feel great about it because, like you said, Roschon Johnson's at risk because Kyle Monangai does what he does. Kyle Monangai is one of my favorite running backs. He does not have a receiving profile. He's just a tough runner. And to be honest, he reminds me a lot of David Montgomery. Roschon Johnson was never polished. He was a converted quarterback. And then he had like 4 snaps, like a game behind Bijan, So I don't hate Swift, especially at cost right now. And honestly, no one's really buying. Like, sure, put him on the trade block to sell. What are you actually going to get? And especially this time of year, I'm holding on to him, and he's probably going to have a good pop gains because, like, the point you made is that you don't need 1,000 yards rushing for him. Realistically, you may need 600-700, and then if you get those 50 catches right there, you're close to 1,000 total yards. And then in a PPR league, the receptions are going to do a lot of that. Reminds me of them James White numbers. Like if you it's like really ugly. So I really like I said, guys, we're getting gross. Believe it or not, though, your next one is not gross at all. I think the fact that he is a deep sleeper is the perfect opportunity and probably the biggest buy that we have on this episode. Origins, rookies only. This essentially you're doing a rookie draft, and that's your best ball team. You're getting them at the back end of round 2, actually the start of round 3, because there's only 10 in that lobby. Dynasty rankings 49, redraft don't 66, that's not even real. I had to scroll like twice to get down there. It's redraft tees free money right now, and this is why I love having you on, Harms, is we could get in them trenches. Where do all these wide receivers fit? A lot of people think there's too many mouths to feed.
Mhm.
I was like, they had nobody last year. Stephon Diggs got hurt, Nico Collins got hurt for a time, Tank Dell, rest in peace. You had Dalton Schultz. Like
Yeah.
who died from this was Dalton Schultz. Jaylin Noel's your guy here. Tell me about what you think about him and how he fits into this offense.
I know people are going to talk about, well, they brought in Christian Kirk, right? He's their starting slot receiver, where you see the
Who?
role exactly, right? Like, we're talking about somebody who was basically shipped out of Jacksonville because they didn't want this contract anymore. Now,
Yeah.
he wasn't a productive player at times. They did do some really nice things with getting him schemed open, but he is a pure slot player. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, maybe it's a hot take, I don't know. Jaden Higgins was drafted first. I think Jaylin Noel's better. I think he's way better.
Yes.
I think he's just overall, he can play on the outside, he can play on the inside. He's going to create more separation and give you more real explosive plays from the slot, from the outside. He can handle the scheme touches too. I know we're kind of like putting John Mechie in here. No, John Mechie, unfortunately, has not been the same player he was at Alabama since the cancer and trying to come back from it. So I don't think you're even considering him in a role in this as a starting wide receiver. And then we know Tank Dell's probably done the rest of the season. Like, all right, he's probably not playing at all. So we're talking about 2 X-ish receivers in Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins that might take from each other in terms of the routes they run. And then maybe Christian Kirk as someone who takes from Noel early. I think by and large, near the end of the season, you might be seeing Jaylin Noel playing far more than Jaden Higgins and just being a more explosive player in an offense that without Tank Dell needs explosivity. And we talk about Nico Collins adding that. He is an over route merchant. He is so good at the middle of the field. How are you going to create space for him? You're going to take Jaylin Noel, you're going to just run him down the field. Right? You can do that. When you start seeing those safeties get downhill, then you can start to attack down the field with CJ Stroud hitting some of those. So I think Jaylin Noel is just going to get better as the season goes along. And then by the end of the year, you might see him be one of the most productive players in this offense.
Yeah, and like you said all the things that I said. Especially, I love that you opened up that like Jaylin Noel's the better receiver in my opinion. My film eyes say that, yours does, Matt Harmon's does on route charting. Jaden Higgins, get ready to learn sacrificial X, buddy, because to be honest, like I think he's going to be eating a lot on the outside. And I'm not saying he's not going to be productive or he's not going to be very good, but he's probably going to be a better NFL player than he will be for fantasy. And he's going to have these boom bust games where I think, and this is a good and bad comp. I think he's going to be kind of a poor man's DK Metcalf for them. And what you expect in production. Nico Collins can do a lot of over the middle or intermediate and deep. But Jaylin Noel, the same thing. You can have him play, push the seam deep. I really like his. Like he has one of the fastest whip routes I've ever seen. I've ever seen someone do. So that you really have a levels concept already built into your wide receivers right away. So really, again, they basically bought a brand new wide receiver room, and the only one I would be worried about that had any fantasy relevance is Dalton Schultz. Prepare to only expect a touchdown from him. I know he had a couple of games where he was basically the only target out there. I think that is pretty much done. Like I said, dynasty, and to give this more context out of just dynasty rankings. I mean, where have you seen him going in rookie drafts right now? Third round. He's been
third round. I've gotten him third round just about every rookie draft that I've done. And I'm just like, I can't pass that up. It's a guy that I have
every time.
Top 50 player in the draft. Like I can't say no to that.
Yeah, it's super easy. Like I thought he would go top I didn't think it was out of question that we'd go top 50
Yeah.
even, like it's, I know there was a lot of things to like in his profile over someone like Luther Burton, who I still like a lot,
Mhm.
but just that, everyone hated that 2024 season, whereas Jaylin Noel really, really popped at times. Before we're going to give you another vet, one of my vets here. If you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. As we have these best ball ADPs up, these dynasty ADPs up. Remember, you can get on the action at Fast Draft. There'll be a link in the bio. You can use code FAST, and we'll give you a deposit match of up to $50. Like again, looking at these ADPs, guys, super exploitable. If you know ball, this is going to be your easiest chance to get in and have a real shot at these best ball money that you see all the best ball bros posting on Twitter and whatnot. And I think I'm done paying bills at that point. We're going to jump right back into it. Brenton Strange. This is a tight end I love getting in startups right now because let's say if you miss on the early run on tight ends or you don't get a good tight end too, Brenton Strange isn't even on the charts anymore.
Mhm.
Flex 4, which again, like flex positions only. One reason I want to do some of these deeper players is especially in best ball, roster diversity is everything. So you have some of these players that are buried in ADP that can give you that roster diversity, but have real upside later. I'm not talking about,
Mhm.
these Dylan Laube type players that you're like, oh, wow, I got 40% exposure and then he got one fumble all year. Brenton Strange was productive. They didn't go get another tight end. And he was a second round pick with a solid relative athletic score. Flex 4 ADP 300. That is not even real, guys. Like that is your guarantee to get Brenton Strange in your next 5 drafts easily. Dynasty ranking tight end 23 right now. Uh, that's kind of like running back. After 20, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Redraft a little bit higher, 17. How high are you on Brenton Strange?
I like Brenton Strange, and honestly, I didn't really know much about him when he was drafted in this on day 2 a few years ago. I was like, why are we talking about this guy
Right.
drafting on day 2? I went back and I watched. I'm like, he's a solid all around player. I thought he was more explosive after the catch than I expected. Again, when you go in without any expectations, it's hard to really find it. And again, I thought he was a really good receiving option. Not the best blocker in the world, but effort was all there. And you find a couple times where he's just kind of blocking on somebody all the way down the field. And when you talk about not having a ton of competition, they brought in Johnny Munt and Quentin Morris, who are both blocking tight ends. Hunter Long is
Mm-hmm.
basically a project former wide receiver that no one knows who's going to be, like who this even going to be. So Strange is the receiving tight end in this room, and he's not going to be Evan Ingram. But we also know that Evan Ingram had a really big role, former offense with with the trust of Trevor Lawrence. So we're hoping that we get to see some of that develop with Brenton Strange. Obviously, last year when he had a couple of blow up games, he had 12 targets against the Jets. That's probably just going
Mm-hmm.
against the Mac Jones versus the linebackers on the second level, right? Another problem we have with this situation is that Mac Jones played the vast majority of the second half of the season, where Brenton Strange started to get more involved in the offense. So we want to see how Trevor Lawrence is going to develop with Brenton Strange. And typically, tight ends have that safety net and the ability to just kind of get a quarterback out of a difficult situation. So I'm interested to see this myself. But this is, again, a young player with some explosive movements. I don't think he's the best athlete in the world, but lateral and linear explosiveness. I think he can give you some of those quick, maybe make some guys miss. And you're also hoping for some real touchdown regression, right? Only 2 touchdowns last year. We're hoping to see a
Mm-hmm.
bit more from him this year. In an offense that's kind of devoid of bigger bodies. Now, I know that Brian Thomas is 6'3", a little bit of a wiry frame. Trevor
Yep.
Henderson, just completely
Travis
botched
Hunter.
that. Travis Hunter, wiry frame. De'Ami
Mm-hmm.
Brown, smaller, wiry guy. So he's a player that you might see in some of those contested catch situations that Trevor Lawrence kind of wants to throw, and you might see some of those touchdowns come into play there too.
Mm-hmm. And the usage in this offense, they'll run a tight end and three wide receivers often, because we saw that with Cade Otton. You want to talk about
Yeah,
someone
exactly.
who's not very athletic? Cade Otton isn't. He's not a very athletic dude, and we saw him be incredibly productive. And I almost put Cade Otton here over Brenton Strange
Yeah,
just because they did nothing with their tight end room, and they seemed to like him a lot. Um, and again, there's just not a lot of target competition for what he does, which is a point that you made here. So especially if you're lacking at tight end, you can almost get Brenton Strange in a throw-in deal now.
yeah,
Especially tight end 23 for dynasty, you could probably get a third rounder and someone else for Brenton Strange. To be honest, if I had Pat Fryermuth, I would go move him for Brenton Strange
yes.
in anything. Like
Anything.
in anything is a plus. Like really, I would almost do it like straight up, but someone would probably give you a little extra if you ask. And it's like this isn't even a Pat Fryermuth the player. I want no part of those Steelers
None.
at all
None.
right now. Yeah, you know, Caleb Johnson is about all I want, and that's just because he has I think his future in Pittsburgh is longer than let's say like my Coach Tomlin. So
Okay.
I don't know. He feels like he's in his Belichick era, and I mean Belichick. I'm going to date a 12-year-old era. So we're going to go over to yours. You got a rookie, and I split this up so you get 4 rookies, 4 vets. We got another tight end here, Oronde Gadsden II. He's someone like again perfect dart throw that I've taken a lot. He's on the Chargers right now. Origins ADP 56. That's basically undrafted sometimes. Dynasty tight end 28. That's free. Redraft. We don't have him on the site on Player Profiler. That's we just don't scroll that far for tight ends. I'll talk to
Yeah.
Matt about that. I'll talk to the Podfather. Basically, this is a free roll for someone whose competition is Tyler Conklin. That I think that's a sales pitch.
I mean, you can also put Will Dissly in there if you want to, a guy who's predominantly a
Oh,
blocking tight end, but was
yeah.
fed the football because they literally had nobody else to throw the football to. And so when we are, again, we're looking for opportunity. If we have 2 blocking tight ends in front of basically a wide receiver, because that's what he was. He's a big body wide receiver who transitioned to play tight end for Syracuse. That's what I'm looking for. They want to be able to stretch the football. And we know they're going to run, do their play action concepts. If we look at this as a big slot type of player, Josh Palmer had a ton of deep targets from Justin Herbert, and he had some wide open targets too, where Herbert just kind of missed him. That's kind of what I'm looking at this to be, because you have, they brought back Mike Williams. They already have Ladd McConkey, the guy who's going to be the quick get open guy. But Trey Harris is an ex receiver who is not going to give you a ton down the field in this specific offense, at least in my mind. You want a tight end that can stretch the seam with a 4.65 40. He can absolutely do that. And he's a big body receiver, not going to give you the most athletic route tree, but he can run a lot and be with his big body. He can make tough catches, contested catches with 33 and 3 3/8 inch arms, nearly 34-inch arms. So the catch radius is massive. You get him on linebackers and safeties, he's going to dominate most of those situations. And in an offense, again, that's probably trying to throw the football a little bit more. They're still going to run it, but I think that they want to give Justin Herbert more of the opportunity to throw it downfield. He is a player that can have a lot of upside in this offense with a big arm quarterback. So again, like you said, it's basically it's a dart throw, but the opportunity is there for him to just be the receiving tight end in this offense.
Yep. And I need to check. I should have checked this timeline earlier, but I want to say Isaiah Likely was drafted when Greg Roman was still with the Ravens, right?
I think you are correct.
Yeah. So, and I mean, if you have 2 good tight ends and usable tight ends, you should get them on the field. And what I see now is someone is going to be eating a lot of blocks. And I don't want to call them Mark Andrews, but they're going to be in line blocking a lot. And then Oronde Gadsden can be this Isaiah Likely type move tight end that creates a lot of interesting mismatches, and right now, even including Quentin Johnston, I really like how this Chargers receiving room, including the tight ends, are
Mhm.
built. Is it perfect? No, but it's definitely Oakland A's where they've like built things within the aggregate where you have Lad McConkey there that could be your guy, can always get open. Trey Harris, I think I always say this sacrificial X where he's going to be playing deep. And again, I think he's better for NFL use than for fantasy. But this moves Quentin Johnston even closer to the line of scrimmage to where you could get the best out of him, which is his yak ability, and I guess like less opportunity for drops downfield.
Yeah.
But Oronde Gadsden can live over the middle of the field and really beat up on linebackers deep and create those mismatches on some of these safeties. So it's interesting what they've done for Herbert, and Herbert's a type of quarterback that can elevate someone even with the Oronde Gadsden. Because like to be honest, the only thing that's going to hurt Oronde Gadsden is blocking and how they're going to
Correct.
scheme
Yeah.
for that. That is it. He is an excellent wide receiver and everything you want because he played wide receiver.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
good pull. We're shifting over to one of your vets. Jauan Jennings is your next one. This is another one of my favorites where I've had him on contenders, and I'm just like, Bilbo's like, why not? Why shouldn't I keep it?
Yeah.
Because Brandon Ayuk, red flags a lot. I mean, he had a poor year, poor attitude. Then he didn't really bounce back. And he's going to be out again, I
Yeah.
think, a little bit for the
Probably.
season. And Jauan Jennings, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall can all exist together. We've seen it in this offense. Right now, flex ADP 69, giggity. That means nothing. You can get him for free going undrafted. Dynasty ranking, wide receiver 44. Redraft, wide receiver 32. That's an easy button click. Especially for Dynasty at
Yeah.
44. I've seen him go later than that, especially in Dynasty, where people are taking some of these wide receivers like Elick Ayer-Manor, Ayer Manor, who I liked a lot, but he's playing on the Titans. I have no confidence in the Titans really, even with Ward,
Fair.
and that's not even a slight to Ward, but like I don't know, like Harms. What does Brian Callahan do for you? Does he excite you at all? It's like I don't.
I mean, maybe. I mean, again, we don't have a quarterback in Tennessee that he's wanted to work with. So
Mhm.
maybe Cam Ward can give you some of that. But again, I thought Shador would have been a better fit for that offense because if we go back to what he was doing with the Bengals, it was based off of timing, getting the ball over the middle of the field. I'm not saying that Cam Ward can't do that. I just thought that the scheme fit was better for Shador than it is for Cam. But I'm still excited to watch Cam Ward over there. But Elick is very raw for me still. Like there's clear a lot of like natural talent for him, and then
Yeah.
with the ability to just kind of find the football wherever it is, even though he doesn't have the biggest hands, strong hands, he just kind of looks a little bit smaller than you'd expect on film, but he plays bigger. You love to see guys that play bigger like that. So I don't know, but I'm not going to take him over a proven guy in a comfortable system that he's played in for the last like 3 or 4 years in Jauan Jennings, and who just is coming off his best season yet at 27 years old. And again, like you said, with Brandon Ayuk possibly back this season, I think he's going to play at some point. But even if he does, he will be hampered. Like guys that come off those ACLs the first year are never the same. It takes till year two. So you have to bake in a little bit of Jauan Jennings usage in the Brandon Ayuk role, at least some of it, along with Ricky Pearsall, who we didn't see a ton of like great things last year. But again, he got hurt. He was shot, and then
Yeah.
he came back from that. So there's a lot of like injury concerns around the wide receivers in San Francisco, except Jauan Jennings. And he has been a trusted player who now has developed into not just this great blocking receiver, which San Francisco asks all their receivers to have to be able to block at a high level. All of them have
No
to.
block, no rock. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't get that. And that's one thing that he did first, right? He was a blocking receiver, but he's developed into a real, I'm not going to say he's Nico Collins, but maybe Nico Collins-esque in the sense where you can see him run a lot of those same routes, that route tree, and be an impact player over the middle of the field. We know they want to run the football, but that leads up to play action and where they beat zone defenses over and over and over again. And Jauan Jennings has been that big focal point. Only 6 touchdowns last year, but I think that that can go up even more this year if everything's back on track. You've got Brock Purdy now under contract. That's behind you, and Jauan Jennings is going to become one of the focal points of this passing attack. So when you're talking about a wide receiver 44, like in Dynasty and even in the 30s in redraft, it's just like you said, it's an easy button to click, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I've had that other people like him too because I've gotten trades for him and it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
They're like, well, what do you want for him? I'm like, too much, I guess. It's like like I don't. You're not going to give me a first. I wouldn't pay a first, and I don't want your second. So
correct.
it's just like I don't know. I just think he's fine right here on my roster.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe if there's like he's almost one I'd only want to do player for player, where I
Yeah,
would treat it
that's
like a
fair.
redraft. Like I need this running back, and I have Jauan Jennings, and he's like my
I like
wide
that. Yeah,
receiver for. Then I would do that. But it's just he's hard to buy and he's hard to acquire. But if you're drafting him, he's someone that I want to target for all the reasons that you said, because it's like the 49ers. I want everyone but Ayuk basically
yeah,
in
that's fair.
CMC. Like I don't want CMC. I don't want Ayuk. I don't Pearsall. Like you said, mystery box. He was hurt, and then he played bad because he was hurt and didn't
Yeah,
have a camp, and then he flashed. We only got like a little bit, and then I don't do stats or whatever. I just go, I just try to take everything in on context, but if you do follow that, you're thinking, oh, well, he didn't have a good rookie season, so his hit rate might not be well. The 49ers don't even work like that. Obviously,
yeah,
that's why we're seeing Jauan Jennings as what a year 8 breakout or something like that. Like they don't really work like that, and it's very systematic where you need to be able to block, you need to be able to be on time. That's all they ask
that's
for
right.
is
Yep.
block and be on time. It's not that hard. Next, we're going to go over, and I know this is crazy. I gave you the entire Chicago backfield minus Roschon Johnson. I didn't even realize I did that. I was just kind of looking at like what I'm drafting. I love Kyle Monangai for all the reasons that I said that you should like DeAndre Swift. Kyle Monangai can easily be the David Montgomery.
Yep.
He was like a top 5 running back for me in the class because I thought he was a great runner. And it's like, and now like when you think about that, you have like a type in a person. I'm like, oh, I love me some David Montgomerys. That's why I liked him so much, and he really fits it. He's a tough runner. I don't think he's a liability and a dump off in the receiving game, but you can't expect him to go out there and do. You can't call him a receiving back, let's
That's
say,
fair. Yeah.
and it is a fresh slate over there. So Origins 48, that is sometimes undrafted, dynasty ranking RB 71.
Yeah.
That's what is this redraft RB 84? Who are you drafting ahead of? You still drafted Dylan Laube out there, guys? Are we still doing that? I felt like Keaton Mitchell, some of these other people. Do I don't know. Am I crazy to think that Roschon Johnson's just done? I feel like he's almost droppable at this point.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that there's any way he's going to be the RB2. I think it's going to be Kyle Monangai. One, because he's comfortable playing running back. He looks comfortable playing running back. He looks way better than Roschon Johnson. I didn't ever get the Roschon Johnson stuff. I was just like, am I the one taking crazy pills? Like, am I the one that's wrong about this? It turns out I was not wrong. But the Bears backfield didn't lead for a lot of like optimism because you do have Roschon Johnson, you have DeAndre Swift, guys that are good in some aspects, but you have to like put them all together to make
Mhm.
a true 3-down running back for a team. And now you get, like you said, Kyle Monangai, who's going to give you those bruiser. He's going to be a short yardage back, but he's going to be able to explode off of some tackles too. That's not something DeAndre Swift is really going to give you. He's more of a make you miss, but you need some players that can come in, run your offense, and break some tackles consistently, and not just break a tackle here and there, but string them together. That's one of the things about the body control of a running back that you see with Monangai, where he can lower the shoulder, but angle his body out of the way of an incoming hit to continuously break tackles in one pure motion. And that's one of the, like I said, the beautiful things about watching a power back like that, who's maybe not the fastest guy in the world, isn't the best 3rd-down back, but he's just so good in between the tackles and using his own body to create arm tackles to create advantageous situations for himself, where you might see him be that first, second down, bleed into some of the DeAndre Swift carries, but then you can see DeAndre Swift being more impactful on the passing downs because maybe he's just not as beat up and banged up as he has been throughout his career. So I like where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I love your film analysis on him because that's what, like, would you just see tough running and contact balance? That's like work of art, you know. Like
Yeah.
I saw like Twitter or something. Someone's like, "What type of highlight do you love?" I was like, I love our running back just taking a beating, and it's like he's like swimming, you
Yeah.
know, just
Right.
yeah, like working through there. And this is a guy that he has a production. He was a big, I think, Big Ten, all Big Ten
Yeah.
first team, even over Caleb Johnson. I mean, this is a guy who I thought would go a lot earlier than he did, you know, but you know how relative athletic score works. So could this be a Damian Pierce? Maybe, but if he was drafted by a new team and Damian Pierce was drafted by someone on the way out. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what happened here. So this is someone I'm going to draft and I wouldn't say early, but fourth round, this is a guy that I would trade some of my garbage for. You
Yeah.
know, if you got someone on some crappy tight end that someone else believes in, go trade that for a fourth. Go get Kyle Monangai. And I'm not going to say he's going to feed families, but I would take that bet over a lot of other people. Like I said, folks, we're going to get in them trenches here. We're
Oh,
in behind them trenches in the year of our Lord 2025. We're going to talk about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Flex 4 ADP 202. That is so low. Dynasty ranking, wide receiver 124, redraft, wide receiver 80. Um, I joke, but I see the light kind of a little bit. It's a black
that's it,
light.
right? It's right. Like, you guys, we've all watched Marquez Valdes-Scantling over the past couple of years. It just, the dark consumes him, and then all of a sudden, like last year, there's that game where it's 150 yards. You're like, whoa, where was MVS? What is he doing? Oh, he's with the Saints now.
Yep.
He played with the Bills and the Saints. I believe, yeah, he played with the Bills and the Saints last year. He was basically nothing with the Bills because they didn't want that. And then he goes to the Saints and it's like, hey, we're going to throw you the football. You're going to score touchdowns. He had 109 yards against the Falcons with 2 touchdowns. And he had he had a 3-game streak where he scored 4 touchdowns. I'm not telling you that Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to be like this world-beating receiver with Seattle. But we know a couple of things about the construction of the Seattle wide receiver room. They have 2 young players that are in the MVS mold, Torrey Holton, Ricky White. Those are the 2 players that you could probably see be the next MVS for that offense. The problem is neither of them are really ready to do that. Torrey is coming back off of an injury, and I'm not a Ricky White guy myself personally, but again, in the 7th round, you're probably going to be okay drafting him. But MVS in construction with Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba, it makes sense. It makes sense because teams are going to be like, they want to throw the football to JSN and Cooper Kupp. Rightly so. You're going to get a couple pure one-on-one situations for MVS, and he's going to probably catch a couple of touchdowns, deep balls from Sam Darnold, who still wants to air it out. He still wants to do that. And in this offense, I think that's what this construction makes sense. So I know it's gross. Trust me, I'm, as a Chiefs fan, a guy who's watched him drop constant footballs down the field for no reason at all, being in the wrong spot. It makes sense. It does.
This I get it, and like and the key caveat from a Chiefs fan, like one of these Chiefs guy, it's Chiefsaholic, then it's Harms. No, no,
God
but
damn.
yeah, like MVS, man. It's like you said, like he has the easy fit and path. I don't like Ricky White at all. People like,
No,
look
no.
at Ricky White. I'm like, okay, guys, Mountain West. I live in the Mountain West. Okay, I was a CSU beat guy, so I know Torrey Horton well. And
Yeah.
when I tell people to like, do you like Torrey Horton? I was like, there's lots to like. You
Yeah.
know, you talk about a guy with that length that was a good special team player, but he
Absolutely.
played like 4 downs because he was injured, and Braden Fowler Nicolosi is like one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever watched in my life. It's not even like close sometimes. So MVS, at least from day one, especially like we're a best ball company, so
Yeah.
like for best ball where you're drafting them, which is your last pick. I mean, especially for if you're going to do a Seattle handcuff, it makes sense because, like you said, MVS is one of those people that, like, as a fantasy analyst, you're like, MVS had a pop game. You're like, that's not real. Throw that in the trash. And it happens again. You're like, that's not real. And throw this in the trash. And then you're like, you're on this loop. And then you look back at the end of the season. You're like, what?
Yeah, right.
So he's definitely that type of player. Next, I picked one from your Chiefs.
Yep.
And it's one that I haven't drafted enough because he's buried so far,
Yes.
and you don't even think about him. Even someone like me, guys, like sometimes ADP gets in the way because I'm like, oh wow, because sometimes someone else will take Brashard Smith, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why didn't I take him? like what was I doing around during that time taking? Again, like the Keaton Mitchells or these other running backs. I saw Justice Hill go ahead of Brashard Smith. I'm like, all right, I guess we're still doing that,
Yeah.
Or Origins ADP 35. That's creeping up there. Dynasty ranking RB 50, redraft ranking RB 64. And obviously I'm going to kick it to you, but I'm going to give you my pitch and I want you to tell me if I'm on the right path. The Chiefs do not give a shit about draft capital running backs. They did that 1 year and they're like, not for us. We're not going to do that anymore. They do not care. They value receiving from their running backs. And we've seen them use that with someone who I think is a lesser talent in Jerick McKinnon. Brashard Smith, wide receiver, running back combo here in the 7th round. And you think about what does he do different than everyone in that room. We saw a little bit more receiving out of Isaiah Pacheco. Carson Steele can play football. He is a person.
Yeah.
And then you have Brashard Smith. Do you have any excitement for him, especially at his cost?
I love him. And honestly, when you look at what the Chiefs couldn't do last year, they couldn't generate any explosive plays. They were the slowest running back room at the line of scrimmage in the NFL. There was no explosiveness. There was none. And
I forgot about Kareem Hunt. Yeah. Actually, I forgot Kareem Hunt was there. Actually,
yeah, exactly. You've got Pacheco, you got Kareem Hunt. You have all these big bruisers. And no offense to Pacheco, who's got build-up speed. He is not an explosive running back. It takes time for him to get there. And coming off the injury last year, he was clearly hampered. I know the Chiefs are going to tell you that they are behind him 100%. This is the last year of his contract. In 2026, there are 0 running backs on the roster not named Carson Steele and Brashard Smith. That's it. That is it. So this is where you want to get in a year where everyone's probably saying Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are the 1-2, but Smith can handle the third down stuff right away. I believe he's going to win the return role out of camp, and that he means he's on the roster already. We're not talking about a guy who's going to come up from the practice squad. They value his explosiveness and what he's going to bring as a receiver, and because of that simple fact, he's going to work his way into the role, into the roster and the running back room at some point and be an impact player on the field. So he's a guy that I've been drafting a lot of him and Jaylin Noel at the end of 3rd and 4th rounds or whenever I get the chance, because they're basically free at that point. And for whatever reason, people are very, I guess, not optimistic about Brashard Smith. They think his numbers at SMU were fake. And I'm here to tell you he's a better running back than a lot of these guys that you're drafting later in rounds. And I think he's got more feel for the running back position than a wide receiver typically shows. Like Tyrone Tracy last year. I'm not saying he's Tyrone Tracy because Tyrone could do better from the pass protection standpoint, and he's a more physical running back, and he just kind of has a better vision. But that's what we're talking about. Guys that are former wide receivers turn running back that have better positional feel than you would expect. And I think that's something that really showed up on his tape for me too. So I'm excited about the opportunity because of the specific explosiveness that he offers that no other running back in Kansas City does.
Yep. This is where you find your deep sleepers. It's like, what does this person do differently? And then I keep throwing strays at him, but that does get you your Dylan Laube sometimes. But again, Brashard Smith, the athleticism and explosiveness
Yeah.
Lowry didn't even come close to. And people forget that he was productive at Miami as well. This is someone that goes wherever and seems to produce type guy. And another thing is Andy Reid. I just don't, he does not give a shit about draft capital that
Nope.
much. You know, if you can ball, you can ball. And if you keep playing well, then you're going to keep getting the rock. We've seen that. Do you fit the scheme? Can you do what's asked of you and make a play? And that's the type of coach where I will take shots on guys like this, especially when you're tenured. You're not worried about him
Yeah.
playing for his job or something like that. Like some of these other, coaches that are on their last legs. I don't want some of these running backs going there because I'm like, man, this seems like Damian Pierce situation
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, I like him, but he's a 5th round pick on a coach on his way out. Like that's just not a very good bet. And then in the short term, they don't tend to have the production profile and the athleticism that Smith has. So,
Yeah.
really exciting player, but we'll end it there. Those are 4 rookies, 4 vets. I'm Jagger May. That's Daniel Harms. You can see him over at RGR, especially if you're a Chiefs fan. He's always breaking down stuff. He's with Damian Parsons over at the Film Room. I'll have more content coming for you. I'll keep you updated on any fast draft tournaments. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.
So I thought I needed. Ooh.